Part 1, First Contact. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, holographic and shimmering with an iridescent glow that no Earth technology could produce. My name, Morgan Fletcher, rotated slowly in alien script that somehow rearranged itself into English when I focused on it. Selected for exclusive membership, Celestial Bodies Fitness Collective. For those seeking transformation beyond human potential. I nearly tossed it into the trash. At 32, my fitness routine consisted of occasional yoga and running when guilt outweighed laziness. But something about the way the invitation pulsed with light, almost alive in my hand, made me hesitate. The address led me to what appeared to be an abandoned warehouse in the industrial district. The only indication I was in the right place was a small symbol etched into the metal door that matched the one on my invitation. When I pressed my palm against it, the door slid open with a hydraulic hiss. The interior defied all expectations. The space stretched impossibly large, gleaming with equipment I couldn't begin to comprehend. Beings of various shapes, sizes, and colors moved through the space with purpose. Some were almost human-looking, while others were so alien I couldn't determine where their faces began. Morgan Fletcher. Punctual. Good sign. The voice came from above, way above. I tilted my head back to see a towering figure with azure skin that seemed to shimmer with an internal luminescence. Standing at least 13 feet tall, her muscular frame made me feel like a child in comparison. 4 arms, each rippling with defined muscle, crossed over her chest as she assessed me with glowing amber eyes. I am Crixia. Your assigned trainer. Her voice had a melodic quality, like distant wind chimes. Your species has potential. Untapped. Wasted. I will fix this. I think there's been a mistake, I stammered. I'm not really. No mistakes at Celestial Bodies, Crixia interrupted, one of her lower arms reaching down to easily lift me by the waist, setting me on a platform that began to scan my body. You were selected. Your genetic profile suggests adaptability. Rare in humans. The scan completed with a series of beeps, and Crixia studied the floating holographic display of my vitals with narrowed eyes. Suboptimal cardiovascular efficiency. Muscular development below baseline. Metabolic rate, acceptable. She dismissed the display with a flick of her wrist. We begin now. What followed was the most intense 90 minutes of my life. Crixia guided me through exercises that seemed designed for beings with entirely different physiologies. Gravity shifted unpredictably on different stations, resistance bands seemed alive, fighting against my movements with increasing intelligence, and throughout it all, Crixia pushed me relentlessly. More, she would command, when I collapsed, gasping for breath. Your limits are illusions created by your primitive understanding of your own form. By the end, I lay sprawled on the floor, every muscle quivering, sweat pooling beneath me. Crixia loomed over me, her expression unreadable. You survived first session. Most humans require medical intervention after. Lucky me, I groaned. To my surprise, Crixia's mouth curved slightly. There is fire in you, Morgan Fletcher. Buried deep, but present. One of her hands extended toward me. Return tomorrow. Earlier. We have much to accomplish. As she helped me to my feet, her skin against mine sent an electric tingle up my arm. Our eyes met, and something flickered in those amber depths, curiosity, perhaps, or challenge. Why me? I asked, finding my voice. Why choose someone so average? Crixia tilted her head. Average is not what I see. Her lower right hand brushed my shoulder with unexpected gentleness. Potential requires proper cultivation. Your species focuses on immediate results. I focus on complete transformation. As I limped toward the exit, muscles screaming in protest, Crixia called after me. Decision time, Morgan Fletcher. Return tomorrow to continue, or discard the opportunity. But know this, her voice lowered, I have selected you specifically. I do not waste my time. Outside, I gulped the fresh air, staring at my trembling hands. Something had changed in me already, a spark ignited that I hadn't felt in years. I knew I would return tomorrow, and the day after that. What I didn't know was how completely Crixia would transform not just my body, but every aspect of my existence, or how complicated things would become when fitness training evolved into something far more intense and intimate than I could have possibly imagined. 3 weeks into my training at Celestial Bodies, and every fiber of my being screamed for mercy. My muscles ached in places I hadn't known existed. My alarm clock's morning chime had become the harbinger of torture. Today, I seriously contemplated not showing up at all. Your vital signs indicate insufficient recovery, Crixia noted as I dragged myself into the facility, eyes barely open. Your sleep patterns are disrupted. Because everything hurts, I mumbled, wincing as I stretched. I'm not built like you, Crixia. Humans have limits. All 4 of her arms crossed in disapproval. Limits you impose on yourself. Today we increase intensity. I stared at her in disbelief. Increase? I can barely walk. Walking is not our goal. One of her lower hands guided me toward a section of the gym I hadn't seen before. The equipment here seemed to pulse with energy, glowing with an ominous blue light. Today we begin neuromuscular recalibration. The machine she positioned me on resembled an anti-gravity chamber crossed with an octopus. As soon as I stepped inside, tendrils of light wrapped around my limbs, and I felt my body become weightless. This will stimulate muscle growth at the cellular level, Crixia explained, adjusting settings on a hovering control panel. It may cause discomfort. Discomfort was the understatement of the century. As the machine activated, it felt like every cell in my body was being torn apart and reassembled. I lasted 8 minutes before the pain became unbearable. Stop. I gasped, tears streaming down my face. I can't, please. To my surprise, Crixia immediately deactivated the machine. I collapsed to the floor, shaking uncontrollably. Instead of her usual disappointment, Crixia knelt beside me, her massive frame somehow making the gesture seem more significant. You pushed beyond what most humans would endure, she said quietly. Why are you doing this to me? I whispered, anger bubbling through exhaustion. Is this some kind of experiment? Torture the weak human for fun? Crixia's amber eyes widened, genuinely surprised. You believe I enjoy your suffering? Don't you? You push and never seem satisfied. She was silent for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, she sat on the floor beside me, her azure skin catching the light as she sighed. On my planet, I was considered inadequate, she said, her melodic voice softening. My species values physical perfection above all. I was born smaller than others, with respiratory deficiencies. She extended one of her 4 arms. This lower left arm, cybernetically enhanced after a childhood illness nearly rendered it useless. I stared at her, struggling to reconcile this revelation with the towering powerhouse who had been tormenting me for weeks. I was not expected to survive adolescence, she continued. When traditional methods failed, I discovered alternative techniques, methods considered unorthodox. I rebuilt myself, cell by cell, against all expectations. Her eyes met mine. I push you because I see in you what others once saw in me. Limitation. I reject this assessment. But I'm human, I protested. Our physiologies are completely different. Yes. And no. Crixia touched my shoulder, sending that now familiar tingle through my skin. Your species has untapped potential. Your adaptability is your greatest strength. I push you not to break you, Morgan Fletcher, but to awaken capabilities dormant within your genetic code. She stood, extending a hand to help me up. Today, we will try a different approach. One that respects your current limitations while expanding them gradually. That session became a turning point. Crixia modified my training regimen, incorporating alien techniques that worked with my human physiology rather than against it. For the first time, I began to see measurable progress, not just in strength, but in endurance and recovery time. As we finished that day, I noticed Crixia watching me with an expression I couldn't quite define. "What?" I asked, toweling sweat from my face. "Your cellular structure is responding remarkably well," she observed. "Better than anticipated. Perhaps." She paused, seeming uncharacteristically hesitant. "Perhaps what?" "Perhaps there is more to your selection than genetics alone." With that cryptic statement, she turned away. "Rest well tonight, Morgan. Tomorrow, we begin Phase 2. As I left the facility that evening, I caught my reflection in a polished wall. Already, my body was changing, not just toned, but somehow more aligned, more balanced. And something else was changing too, the way I felt when Crixia's hands adjusted my form, the way her approval had begun to matter more than I wanted to admit. I realized I no longer wanted to quit. Whatever transformation Crixia had planned for me, I was now fully invested in seeing it through, perhaps for reasons that went beyond mere physical improvement. By the second month of training, my body had undergone changes I could scarcely believe. My reflection showed defined muscles where softness had once been, and I moved with a fluidity that felt almost supernatural. More surprising than my physical transformation, however, was my growing fascination with Crixia. Today's session had ended early when one of the alien clients required Crixia's attention, leaving me with unexpected free time. Rather than leave, I found myself wandering to the observation deck overlooking the main training floor, watching her work. Admiring the view? I turned to find Drell, a humanoid alien with coppery skin and silver eyes who had joined the facility around the same time as me. "Just observing techniques," I lied, feeling heat rise to my cheeks. Drell made a sound that might have been a chuckle. "Your biorhythms suggest otherwise. Your species is remarkably transparent with emotions." "Is it that obvious?" "Only to those who know what to look for." Drell leaned against the railing. "Crixian attachments are rare, especially with non-Crixians. But not unprecedented." Before I could respond, a melodic tone signaled the end of the facility's operational hours. As the training floor cleared, I descended the stairs, intending to gather my things and leave. Instead, I found Crixia waiting near my locker. "Your progress exceeds projections," she said without preamble. "I believe you are ready for cardiovascular enhancement techniques." "Actually," I said, surprising myself with my boldness, "I was thinking about food." Crixia blinked all three of her eyelids in confusion. "Nutritional supplements are provided in the—" "No, I meant actual food." "Dinner. With you." The words tumbled out before I could reconsider. "Unless your species doesn't eat like that." For the first time since I'd met her, Crixia appeared genuinely caught off guard. "You are inviting me to share a consumption ritual?" "I'm asking you to dinner, yes." After a pause that seemed eternal, she nodded. "This would provide opportunity to discuss your training progress in a different context." "Acceptable." The small fusion restaurant at the edge of the city catered to both humans and extraterrestrials, with private booths designed to accommodate various physiologies. Crixia had arrived in clothing that differed from her training attire, flowing fabrics in deep purples that complemented her azure skin. "This is unexpected," she admitted, studying the menu with careful attention. "Trainers and clients typically maintain professional distance. Is that why you've been watching me differently these past weeks?" I asked, emboldened by the intimate setting. Her amber eyes lifted to meet mine. "You have noticed. It would be hard not to." Crixia set down the menu. Your physiological response to training has been exceptional. Your cellular adaptability exceeds all human benchmarks in our database. Is that all it is? Scientific interest? No. The directness of her answer surprised me. Your determination reminds me of my own journey. And your form, it has aesthetic qualities I find increasingly distracting. I nearly choked on my drink. You find me attractive? Is this not obvious? My secondary pupils dilate 37% more in your presence than with other clients. I couldn't help laughing. That's not typically how humans gauge attraction, but I'll take it. As the evening progressed, we moved beyond training talk. Crixia spoke of her home world, a planet of towering cities and fierce competition. I shared stories of my life before the gym, my failed attempts at various careers, my search for purpose. Purpose cannot be found, Crixia stated, her lower right hand unexpectedly reaching across the table to touch mine. It must be created through action and choice. The contact between us sent electricity through my veins. When her hand withdrew, I found myself missing the connection immediately. Walking back to my apartment, the city lights reflecting off her shimmering skin, Crixia stopped suddenly. Your respiration and heart rate have been elevated all evening. Not from exertion. No, I admitted. Not from exertion. In one fluid motion, she moved closer, her towering form making me feel small yet somehow not intimidated. Interspecies attraction has complexities. I'm willing to navigate them if you are. Her upper right hand cupped my face with surprising gentleness. This is inadvisable. Probably, I agreed. So was joining your gym. When her lips finally met mine, the sensation was unlike anything I'd experienced, cool at first, then warming with an energy that seemed to pass between us. Her multiple arms encircled me, strong yet gentle, and I realized I'd never felt more secure than in that moment. That night changed everything. My transformation was no longer just physical, it had become something far more profound and complex, extending into territory neither of us had anticipated when I first walked through the doors of celestial bodies. The galactic physique trials are not for novices, Crixia insisted, her four arms gesturing emphatically as we stood in her private training chamber. Especially not humans. There has never been a human competitor. Then I'll be the first, I replied, watching myself in the mirrored wall. 3 months of Crixia's training had transformed me beyond recognition. My muscles were not just defined but had a subtle luminescence to them, a side effect of the cellular enhancement techniques we'd been practicing. The competitors train their entire lives, Crixia continued, though I could tell her resolve was weakening. Some alter their genetic structures specifically for competition. I turned to face her. You've been telling me for months that I'm exceeding expectations. That my body is adapting in ways you haven't seen before. I stepped closer, no longer intimidated by her towering height. If you don't think I'm ready, just say so. Her amber eyes studied me intensely. It is not your ability I question. It is the risk. Some competitors will view a human's presence as an insult. The weeks since our first kiss had deepened our connection in ways that still surprised me. Training sessions now often ended with intimate moments in her quarters, exploring the fascinating compatibility between our physiologies. Yet Crixia remained my trainer first, pushing me relentlessly during working hours. I want to do this, I said firmly. Not just for me, but to show what's possible between our species. Finally, she nodded. Then we begin specialized training immediately. The trials are in 3 weeks. What followed was the most intensive training period yet. Crixia introduced techniques she had been hesitant to try before: cellular acceleration, gravitational resistance, neural response enhancement. Each session left me simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated, my body changing daily in subtle ways. The competition was held in a massive arena constructed specifically for the event. Competitors from 27 planets filled the preparation chambers, most casting suspicious or curious glances my way. I was the only human in sight. "Ignore them," Crixia advised, adjusting the specialized compression suit she had designed for me. "Focus only on each event as it comes." The first round was a test of pure strength, lifting progressively heavier objects while subjected to increasing gravity. I surprised everyone by placing 12th out of 32 competitors. The second round tested speed and agility. Here I excelled, my smaller size an advantage as I navigated the complex obstacle course faster than all but 3 competitors. By the third round, endurance under extreme conditions, I had gained reluctant respect from many competitors. But not all. As I prepared for the final event, a tall, gray-skinned competitor approached. Vexlar, the reigning champion from a high-gravity world, loomed over me. "Interesting performance, human," he hissed, his translator barely keeping up with his native dialect. "Pity about your final round." "What do you mean?" I asked, though something in his tone made my stomach tighten. He merely smiled, a disturbing expression on his alien features, and walked away. Crixia found me moments later. "Your hydration supplements," she said, handing me a container with the specialized fluid I'd been using throughout the competition. I was about to drink when she suddenly grabbed my wrist. "Wait." Her eyes narrowed as she examined the liquid. "This has been tampered with. Molecular breakdown accelerant. It would have caused complete muscular failure halfway through the event." She looked up, scanning the preparation area. "Vexlar," she growled. "He wishes to humiliate not just you, but me as your trainer." The officials were summoned, but with no direct evidence, they could only issue a warning and provide me with new supplements. "We should withdraw," Crixia insisted. "This suggests he may have taken other measures we haven't detected." I shook my head. "If I quit, he wins without even competing. I'm doing this." The final event was brutal, a simulation chamber that created personalized challenges based on each competitor's physiological weaknesses. For me, it manipulated gravity and oxygen levels, pushing my respiratory system to its limits. Halfway through, disaster struck. My left leg suddenly seized with pain, a micro-tear in the muscle that shouldn't have happened given my preparation. Vexlar's sabotage had taken another form. Through waves of agony, I saw Crixia watching from the observation deck, her face tense with concern. Our eyes met, and something passed between us, determination, trust, something deeper. Drawing on techniques she had taught me for pain management, I pushed through, finishing the course with a respectable time despite my injury. In the end, I placed 4th overall, unprecedented for any newcomer, let alone a human. As medics attended to my leg, Crixia pushed through the crowd, all pretense of professional distance abandoned as she gathered me in her arms. "You could have been seriously injured," she admonished, but pride shone in her eyes. "Worth it," I replied, wincing as the medics applied regenerative gel to my leg. "Did you see Vexlar's face when they announced the standings?" Later, in the privacy of our quarters, Crixia's gentle touch explored the newly healed skin of my leg. "Your performance has changed things," she said quietly. "Representatives from my home world have contacted me. They are interested in our work together. Is that good or bad?" She was silent for a moment. "It opens possibilities I had not considered when we began this journey." Her amber eyes met mine. Possibilities for both of us. As we lay together that night, I realized our relationship had evolved far beyond trainer and client. Whatever came next would change not just my body, but potentially the future for humans in the galactic community. 6 months to the day after I first entered celestial bodies, I stood before the full-length mirror in my apartment, barely recognizing the person who stared back. My body had transcended conventional human musculature, my skin had developed a subtle luminescence, my movements flowed with preternatural grace, and my senses had sharpened beyond anything I thought possible. The communicator on my wrist pulsed with Crixia's unique signature. "The transport arrives in 2 hours," her message read. Decision time approaches. The invitation had come 3 days ago, an opportunity to accompany Crixia to her home planet as part of a cultural exchange program. I would be the first human to visit Crixia Prime not as a diplomat, but as a pioneer in interspecies physical development. The program would last 2 years. 2 years away from Earth. From everything familiar. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. I opened it to find Crixia, her towering frame now a comfort rather than an intimidation. "You're early," I said, stepping aside to let her in. "I sensed your uncertainty," she replied, her amber eyes studying me. All these months later, I still marveled at how expressive those alien features had become to me, how I could read concern in the set of her jaw, affection in the tilt of her head. "I'm just processing," I admitted. "It's a big step." Crixia moved to the window, gazing out at the city skyline. "When I selected you for training, this outcome was not anticipated. You were meant to be a test subject, proof that humans could adapt to our methods." She turned to face me. "You became much more." I joined her at the window. "Have any other trainers attempted what we've done?" "No. Your case has created significant interest among my people. The elders believe our work together could lead to broader cooperation between our species." "Is that why you want me to come with you? For science and diplomacy?" Crixia's 4 arms moved in perfect synchronicity as she reached for me, drawing me closer. "Those are the official reasons. They are not my reasons." The past few months had taught me much about Crixian expressions of intimacy. While initially alien to me, I had grown to crave the unique energy that passed between us when we touched, the sensation of her multiple hands caressing my body, the cool then warm feeling of her lips against mine. "Then why?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Because separation would be inefficient," she said, in her characteristically practical way that I'd come to find endearing. Then, more softly, and painful. I smiled, reaching up to trace the contours of her face. "You know, for someone who started out treating me like a lab specimen, you've developed quite an attachment. As have you. Your biorhythms still accelerate in my presence, even after all this time. That's not going to change, no matter which planet we're on." Her expression grew serious. "Morgan Fletcher, you must understand what this journey means. Though your body has adapted remarkably, Crixia Prime will challenge you in new ways. The gravity, the atmosphere, the social dynamics, all will require further adaptation. So I'll keep training," I replied with a shrug. "I've gotten pretty good at that." For the first time since I'd known her, Crixia laughed, a melodic sound that seemed to resonate through her entire body. "Yes," she agreed, "you have mastered that skill admirably." As we prepared to leave for the spaceport, I took one last look at my apartment. On the wall hung the holographic invitation that had started everything, preserved now as a reminder of how completely one decision had altered my life. "Any regrets?" Crixia asked, noticing my hesitation. I thought about the person I had been 6 months ago, aimless, ordinary, limited by my own narrow understanding of what was possible. I thought about the pain of training, the frustration, the moments of doubt. Then I thought about the exhilaration of discovery, of pushing beyond perceived limitations, of connecting across species in ways no human had done before. "Not one," I answered honestly. At the spaceport, a small gathering had assembled to witness our departure, fellow gym members, curious officials, even a few reporters drawn by the unprecedented nature of our journey. As we stood at the boarding terminal, Drell approached us, silver eyes gleaming with amusement. "You've come a long way from watching her from the observation deck," he noted wryly. "Longer than I ever imagined," I agreed. The ship that would take us to Crixia Prime hummed with energy, its sleek design unlike any Earth vessel. As we settled into our quarters, Crixia's hand found mine. "Transformation is never complete," she said, echoing words from our very first training session. "It is ongoing, evolving, endless in its possibilities." As the ship lifted off, Earth falling away beneath us, I realized that what had begun as a quest for physical improvement had become something far more profound, a journey of connection that transcended species, a transformation that went beyond the physical to touch something deeper and more essential. Whatever waited for us on Crixia Prime, we would face it together, trainer and student, alien and human, partners in an experiment that had long since evolved beyond its original parameters into something new and unexplored. And as stars streaked past our viewport, I couldn't help but smile at the thought that had begun with an intimidating workout in an alien gym had led to the stars themselves, and whatever lay beyond.